good to see everyone this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, now in the hands of Ms. Lisa Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, April the 30th. We have appeals, request for waiver of the noise ordinance on May 30th in Tricentennial Park. June the 1st, Bragg Mitchell Mansion. This Tricentennial Park is from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. The Bragg Mitchell Mansion on June the 1st from 7 p.m. until 11. Dolphin Street on May 5th from 12 p.m. until 6 p.m. May 24th and May 25th on Robin Hood Drive from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. and 12 p.m. until 10 p.m.
In the issue, Penn and Carol.
No issues.
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to declare the structure at 1609 Jesse Street a public nuisance. 910 Montgomery Street, 1160 Arlington Street, 442B Cottage Hill Road, public nuisance in order it secured. The others are ordering them demolished. And 3066 Lewis Drive North, ordering it declaring it a public nuisance and ordering it demolished.
Mr. Doggerbaugh.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. President. I do want to have an update for Mr. Daves. It's going to be the 442B Cottage Hill Road. This is a securing request due to a unit that is burned at this location. I just want to let you know we've had an update. The owner has a representative. They've requested additional time, 60 days, for them to finalize their designs and repair this project. And I'd be more than happy to let them have the 60 days to get their design before Build Mobile and receive a permit to repair.
So you want to hold over 60 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Malcolm Banks provide information about a coloring book drive for children and youth in Mobile. Carolina Dallas, reparations for the Black community and unity on how to change our current situations. For Lisher French, invite the council to join the National Day of Prayer Task Force on Thursday, May the 2nd. Rena Chapa, speak in support of Chief Prine and Kenyon Brown report. Beverly Cooper, speak in support of the investigation of Chief Prine's allegation and next steps on the Kenyon Brown report. Betty Shin requests to review and change standard regulations to remediate blight in the 3 historically neglected Black areas of Mobile. Reggie Hill, public safety and separation of powers. Resolutions held over. 6372, resolution authorizing council investigation into public allegations against the administration made by Mobile Police Chief Paul Prine.
Council, last week I was stating that about holding this over for a week and have a committee meeting. But throughout the past week, I'm phone and pretty much in person. People is hollering about an investigation. People that is pro Prime and people that is against Prime. I would, ask this council, just look at this to ensure the people that we were going to, launch an investigation, especially if the other resolution was to come to the table today and pass, that even for the people that is, pro Prime, that they will have some assurance that we will look into the matters of the situation. I did, ask for a committee meeting this afternoon, but we can just discuss because I don't want to be no one side as a person that's, if we go ahead and hire a third party, just be CJ's pick or Josh pick or, Gina Gregory pick. I wanted to be something as a whole for the citizens would know that it was a fair process. We do know that there have been some questions about other reports in the past couple of weeks, but we need to be more transparent as much as possible. And I believe just go ahead and releasing this today and passing this today is pretty much being transparent to the citizens that is asking for the investigation because, there was a recent polling with one of the news stations, and I think with 1,100 some odd people responding, it's close to 80% people saying that they don't trust the, government. And us as a legislative body, we need to do as much as possible to ensure that the people know that we are down here doing the right thing, and we are going to do the right thing, and we are going to make sure that this city flows very successful.
So I just want to understand, what you're asking for is to vote this today before we have the meeting?
Yes, to ensure that the public will know that we are going to do it.
Well, we hadn't even discussed the scope. It's just, or who the person's going to be. And, once you pass this resolution, that ship's somewhat sailed. So I'm not in favor of that. I want to have a committee meeting, and talk this through before we vote it. But if y'all want to vote, you'll vote. But I won't support it today, the way it's written now.
Pretty much, and I kind of understand what you're saying, Mr. Reynolds, but at the same time, I'm really trying to make sure that the citizens out there are ensured that we are going to do something, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Answer some of your questions. As you're aware, there have been several allegations made by Paul Prine against the administration of notable interest at one contract in specific having to do with the origin of it and what it entailed. The first time Prine raised that concern was during the exit interview the day that we were sitting down to talk about him retiring. Immediately, I ordered an investigation to be conducted by Burr Foreman, who was using their white-collar attorneys to look into it. While that investigation was being conducted, I also charged the City of Mobile's Office of Professional Responsibility to conduct a second investigation. Both of those investigations are complete now. The two investigations were independent of each other, but they came to the same conclusion. Nothing illegal or outside city policy occurred. Further, I've heard your voice, heard the voices of the citizens like you have, Mr. President, as well as the voices of the City Council. And I'm aware that many are not satisfied with who conducted these investigations. Therefore, in the interest of full transparency and to help restore the public trust and confidence, I've directed the city attorney to send all investigative materials and reports to the Attorney General. He's actually done that this morning. Everything that we have having to do with the allegations regarding these contracts has already been sent. I have full confidence in the Attorney General Steve Marshall's office to provide a thorough and independent review of these allegations. There is no higher investigative authority in the state of Alabama than the Attorney General. And regarding hiring another firm, another set of eyes to look at this, anyone without prosecutorial powers to look into this is just an opinion to add to the mix and only further drags this out. I hope this will satisfy the desire of the public as well as the City Council to have an independent investigation at this time. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Anyone have a question for the mayor?
Mr. President, so just in full scope and full transparency of everything, that information's already made it to the Attorney General's office.
Electronically, it's been sent.
And then you've talked to the Attorney General?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So, but
we reached out to him and told him yesterday that we were going to be doing this.
and then I guess we need to just express for the sake of moving forward to full transparency that sooner the better that they can review this and take a look. I guess that would just be my ask.
Sooner what?
Sooner the better that they get an opportunity to look at this.
I don't know how the Attorney General's office, works, but that's really in their court. But he understands, I think, the political situation that we're involved in, and so we're hopeful that that he can do what he does and keep that in mind. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for submitting that information. I joined in with my colleague, President Small. We have received a lot of information regarding the things that have been taking place in our city. And from both sides, like he stated, people want to see an investigation. And being a representative of the people, I think they need to receive that. So I'm glad to hear that you already submitted that information. My question is, I'm hearing so many different things about reports. I don't know if have this council even seen, it's like, I'm seeing like 2 different reports.
Yeah, if you're leading up to requesting those reports, you can see them.
Okay. Now, can you tell me the name of each report again? Because I'm hearing multiple reports.
There's two investigative reports that were done.
Okay.
One was by the law firm of Burr Foreman, and one was by the Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR, for the city of Mobile.
Did PM Group do a report?
PM Group has not done a report. No, they have not done a report.
And each report, was it the same information that was given for them to investigate?
No, they requested the information. They did their own. I'll let Ricardo answer that so I don't misspeak there. Yeah.
So what we did, Mr. President, was 2 separate parallel reports. So investigations and then subsequent reports. The investigators were not talking to each other. They weren't sharing notes. They weren't sharing information. So each one of them was given the scope of looking at it from an internal standpoint and then looking at it from an external standpoint and allow all of the information and access to witnesses, documents, and the like. And so I think probably the best thing would be for, if should the mayor say, look, give these reports over, especially to the council, then for me to give them to Mr. Linder. And then, because there's some information that's going to be red line information, phone numbers, things of that sort that will need to be redacted. And then the council do what you will with them. But I think it's best that you all have all of the information to be able to make a decision.
Attorney Woods, did each report investigate the same thing?
Same scope, but not the exact same thing, because you allowed the investigators to take the investigation under their own will. So each one was looking at an internal scope of whether or not any policies or laws have been violated. And then the other was looking at whether the contract was legal and followed city policy. So there is some overlap, but it's not coordination. And we specifically had dual and parallel separate investigations to make sure that you're coming to a logical conclusion. And neither one of them found anything that was illegal or out of step with policy. But that being said, all of the investigative materials and all of the findings have been submitted to the Attorney General's office. It'll go electronically and via hard copy.
Well, again, I'm glad that you're sharing that information now, and I'm valuing the submitting to the Attorney General. But I wish we would have had this information before today. And the reason why is because we have there's a lot of things on this agenda to vote on. And I joined in with President Small that I was prepared to vote on this resolution today. And if not, if I wasn't voting on all these things, then there's certain things that I just wasn't going to support. And because I wanted to see an investigation. So to hear this information today, I'm glad that it's taking place, but I just wish we would have received it a little earlier. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. And I can tell you that the investigations were not complete until just yesterday. So they weren't complete until just yesterday.
Ms. Gregory?
Just a point of clarification, what you're talking about in these investigations, explain again what they were looking at, because we, as Councilman Penn said, we've heard reports, but what were they looking at, the contracts that they were looking at specifically?
Sure. So both are focused on the 321Z Insights contract. One focuses more on the city's policy from start to finish. So that's the entire routing process, whether or not it went to legal, whether or not it went to finance, whether or not the fundings were there, whether or not the appropriate memos were filled out, and whether or not it was on the council agenda for the requisite amount of time. It goes through those processes. And that's the OPR more internal. Same substance of the investigation, but not necessarily the same pathway. The outside counsel investigation looks at the legality of whether or not there's an ethics issue, or whether or not there's a fraud issue, or whether or not there's a breach of contract or some personal gain, and goes through that process. And then also there's some overlap with whether or not the council voted on it, whether or not it went through the proper departmental processes, and who knew what when, based on the information that we were able to gather.
Okay,
So-
none of that was focused on anything but that. So anything dealing with chain of command issues or other grievances that we've all heard about, that was not included in that.
None of the personnel issues were
Personnel
dealt with.
issues.
They might have been peripheral, but that was not the focus of what we're dealing with. Those HR and personnel issues, that was not the focus of either one of these parallel reports or investigations.
Mr. Carroll?
First of all, I commend you guys for going to the Attorney General. I wish you would have told the council that. I think in my mind, that's somewhat of an error, done without us knowing and done under your own control. The mayor has stated that investigation was done by Burr Furman. To me, that's in-house. You're employed by Burr Furman, managing partner.
Okay, there's a difference.
I hear you, but still in-house. All the information that was sent to them on 321, it came from in-house, but sent directly to them from the administration. Council doesn't know what you sent. You sent it to us after the fact. Plus, there are other items in the resolution that call for an investigation. The council, doesn't know what you sent. Therefore, you have controlled the scope of what you wanted investigated by sending it to the Attorney General and sending him basically what you wanted him to see. Therefore, not sending it possibly what the community wants to see and the rest of the council may want to see. So the scope has been dictated by the administration and not by this council, who's calling for an independent investigation, basically from somebody totally outside and totally not attached to this administration, meaning no one that has touched or seen this, someone who is truly independent. There's no way, as I've told you before, even going through the process of an election cycle and the Attorney General having two opinions to choose to end an election, and chose to use the latter to continue an election, but there was also an opinion that said the election should be over. So I don't trust that either. Should I remind you in the administration how that happened? So I don't trust that. And I don't trust what I can't see and what hasn't been seen and what hasn't been given to us before it was sent. I'm with CJ and Corey. If we don't pass this today, I'm not going to support other stuff on this agenda.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds?
As I stated before, that's why it absolutely makes sense to, I appreciate y'all's desire or whatever to be hard-headed about what this says. We hadn't discussed the scope of this at all. This is so broad and general that is the resolution regarding the investigation. It says improper administration of the police department. That's what we're going to investigate. Improper according to who? So this can be used as some political tool or whatever. This has the ability to just totally get out of hand and be weaponized and everything else. We need to have a discussion about this before we agree to go into some investigation. So I'm not saying I object to some, additional investigation or whatever, but as it's written right now, it's so broad and general that, it's very important who does the investigation and what their lean is. And, if they're looking to poke a finger in the mayor's eye or poke a finger in Prine's eye or, all that stuff's important and it needs to be discussed before we vote on it. So like I said, if this comes up for a vote today, then I can't accept it the way it's written.
Mr.
Davis.
President,
Oh, Mr. Davis and Ms. Woods.
thank you.
I have, frankly, I've not heard, I've heard from a number of people in support of an investigation. I haven't heard from many, the people I've heard from fall into three categories. The people who support Paul Prine, the aggrieved former employees, and the people who are opposed to the current administration for political reasons. If we do an investigation, there are two different things that are in this resolution that's before us. So they break down into two kind of categories. One is illegal or unethical conduct, and the rest are administrative issues. The rest are administrative issues. If we're going to investigate illegal or unethical conduct, we get to the end, we have no prosecutorial ability. We have no power to investigate. We can do nothing with that afterwards except turn it over to someone who has prosecutorial authority. So why not turn it over now to the people that have prosecutorial authority and let them do the investigation? And the rest of it are administrative matters. We don't have any control over administrative matters. The second point I'd like to make is there's been a great clamor, outcry for investigation. After the events of last summer, there was a great clamor and outcry for an investigation of the police department. So we did that. We hired a third-party individual to come in and do a complete investigation of the police department and presented his report. Has that quieted any of the concern on either side? Those opposed to the police department, those in favor of the police department, those who asked for the resolution, those who didn't want the resolution. Has it quieted any of those concerns? No, it hasn't. We launched an investigation. We'll be tied up for months doing the investigation. It'll cost God knows what. We'll get to the end of it and we'll be exactly where we are today. The people who support the administration will continue to support the administration. People who support Prine will continue to support Prine. The people who are aggrieved former employees will continue to be aggrieved former employees. And the people who are political opponents of the administration will continue to be political opponents of the administration. I believe the whole thing is an exercise in futility. If we feel that there is wrongdoing, we need to turn it over to people who have the resources and the ability to investigate.
Woods.
So, Mr. President, what I wanted to say is two things. Well, three things, actually. One, we cannot control what the Attorney General's office will do or won't do with information once they're armed with it. They have the power to ask for whatever they need. The council has that same type of inquiry when it comes to things of this matter. You all can ask for it. I mean, that's and I think the mayor said, hey, we're more than willing to give you not only the reports, but the investigative material and arm you with information. But I think there's also a middle ground approach. We could bring in the people who investigated this internally, especially, and talk to you about it from the policy standpoint that is in the council's purview, that's outside of that prosecutorial ring. We can open an executive session and talk to you all about what the nuts and bolts are information-wise here. And that way you're armed with at least more information than you have now about the scope of the investigation and what did or did not happen. That may help at least. And then you also have the opportunity to go through the investigation itself and look at what's there. Should you still want to go through and ask more questions, that's totally permissible. Should you still want to vote on going forward with an investigation? Also within you all's authority. I think nobody's challenging that. What we're trying to do is arm you with more information to make a decision based on what we know right now. And we're available to do that today for you. And I think we could probably do it prior to the meeting, prior to the 10:30.
Mr. Penn and Mr. Woods to Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I understand what everybody's stating here today. I heard Joel, Councilman Days state that, I know, we're in a professional meeting. But I heard your statements. And my only thing about it is you asked, did the investigation quiet anybody down? I don't think it quieted anybody down, but I think it did bring attention to some serious matters that's taking place in our city. I believe that there were some questions that a community, I was at a meeting with a pack house at a church that had concerns. And I think that investigation did answer some of those questions. And I believe that that investigation also put the city in a position to work towards becoming a better city and serving our constituents in every aspect. These last 3 investigations has been done under the administration. The council has investigating power, and the people has been calling on the council. We have received emails. I'm in the community. I'm getting stopped at Publix. I'm getting stopped at my kids' school, and everybody is screaming investigation. So while this investigation might not, we don't have the power to investigate it from the standpoint of criminal whatever standards, but it does bring some trust to our community. And it could be utilized to share that information with people who can bring those questions in the matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Linder, and excuse my my questions as far as backing into this. The highest, I guess, prosecuting authority in the state of Alabama would be the Attorney General's office. I mean, outside of federally. I mean, is that a correct statement?
The Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Alabama. Yes.
Okay.
That's the highest prosecuting authority in the state.
Okay. And if this council were to undertake a third-party investigation, and the third-party investigation determined that something was wrong, and that legal action needed to take place, I guess probably for municipality's sake, I guess the Attorney General would probably be who that would get turned over to, potentially outside the district attorney, I guess. But I mean, theoretically.
I think it would be a judgment call if there were some criminality found as to whether to submit it to the local district attorney or to the AG. The AG might be a better option.
Okay.
But again, that's a judgment call depending on what's found.
Okay. So in my opinion, turning it over or going ahead and opening this up with them, or at least raising awareness and asking them to look into it, to me, that kind of just skips straight to the end. And I think that's the end result. And I too, like Councilmember Penn, whether I'm at Publix or church or soccer games or emails, had a lot of feedback about the investigation and or issuing an investigation or starting an investigation. And in my opinion, this is what needs to happen. We skip the 90 days, the 120 days, the 6 months of investigating, and we go ahead and we go to the horse's mouth and get an answer. And I guess it would also probably be fair to say that just because he's given a scope or was given a scope, he can look at whatever he wants to, I guess.
We could in no way limit the scope of the Attorney General's investigation. If the Attorney General decided to investigate, that I would presume they would go wherever the evidence led them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But it's his decision to go beyond what the scope is. Let's be clear that it is his decision to go beyond where the scope is.
Or indeed not to go anywhere at all.
That is exactly what I'm saying, which still leaves us blank and blinded with the lack of knowledge that the public has, and the public trust is still out there. In my mind, even asking for this tells the public, we want to skip over what you want. We don't want the council to do, you don't want the council to do this. Skip over the council and let's do what we want so that we can bypass this situation. That's what I see you telling the public right now by even trying this action. First of all, the cost of this and what it may cost over 90 days is, I think, purely speculation. We don't know what it's going to cost right now. So to say we're going to spend millions, that's just another a way to cry foul to scare the public into saying we're spending too much money. I don't care what it costs. The truth and public trust is worth more than the cost right now, and the public deserves that. The other thing is that I wonder how much did we pay Burr and Furman and all the attorneys to do this investigation that you just did? That had a cost. Nobody's talking about that. All the other stuff that we just did had a cost. Nobody's talking about that. Lasky and his investigation in the OPR, that's still the administration giving information. That is still us, and it still encumbers the public trust. There is nothing better than having a true outside source. I don't know if it was you or not. I just remember saying the office of OPR, that's where you used to be. So if it wasn't you or whoever it is now, it's still the administration. And this isn't a finger pointing contest here. This is us, the council, the city council of the city of Mobile, deliberately wanting to reestablish the public trust through a truly transparent process, and then skipping over a truly transparent process without the public knowing what we're doing and just sending it off is just another way to get around it. I don't like it. Let me say this. I don't know where everybody else is, but if we don't pass this today, I will not be voting to fire the police chief.
Mr. President,
Mr. Woods.
since I can eloquate my thoughts and my opinions better than anybody else, that is not what I'm saying. Is I understand we got a trust issue, Mr. Carroll. We do have a trust issue out there. What I'm saying is instead of dragging this out for 90, 120, God knows, probably 10 months, let's go ahead. Let's turn over what is given, and let's let the guy that actually do something about it review it and move forward if possible. That's where I'm at. We have a trust issue out in the public. That there's no denying that. So let's give it to somebody that can do something, prosecute people, really dive into stuff, and go ahead and get that moving instead of stretching this out, maybe potentially uncover something, then turn it over to the Attorney General. Then the Attorney General say, well, there's nothing here. So that's where I'm at.
A question. 9 months ago, maybe a year, Chief Pine called for the Department of Justice to investigate 2 cases in the city of Mobile. Where's that report?
Say that again.
About 9 months ago, maybe a year, Chief Pine called for the Department of Justice to investigate 2 issues that were police related.
So
where are those reports?
So let me do this.
I'm just asking. Where are they?
Let me answer the question, sir. So I have no idea what you're talking about. Hold on. First off, let me finish. I have no idea what you're talking about. You would have to ask Chief Prine. I've never seen any report like that. I don't know when that exists. It sounds odd that we would not know that somebody would come in and do that. So that so it sounds odd. I don't know of any reports that even exist. So I have no idea what you're talking about. You would probably have to ask him about what he asked for. I can tell you that we have not had any investigative reports dealing with anything in particular called for by DOJ. That's just not happened. Not that we're aware of. So, to make specious allegations in the middle of this meeting, you can understand why people are sometimes suspicious, because we say things that have no factual basis. We ask questions that have limited legal authority. And I want to make sure that I'm offering you all information. So back to my original point, what I want to do, what we'd like to do, is arm the council with the information we already have. If you still want to do an investigation, that's fine. I think the council has the power and authority to do that. Allow us to arm you with the information. There is only a limited universe of documents when it comes to passing a city contract, right? There's only so many things that go into it. There's a routing sheet. There's information that people in finance check off on, people in legal. You all know the process. I don't have to explain it to you all. But for the general public, you all need to be armed with that information to be able to say either I'm satisfied or I'm not based on what we're seeing. And as to going to the Attorney General's office, I think the 7 of you and the mayor are all on the same page. is if there was a crime or an impropriety committed, we want to know. Nobody's going to cover it up. I tell you, for one, I'm not going to put my law license on the line to cover up anybody's crime. My children and my wife have grown strangely accustomed to living inside and eating hot food. I'm never going to do that. So we're going to make sure you have the information we have. If you want additional information, we'll give it to you. But just ask for it, and which you already have, and we're happy to give it to you. So I'm going to hand 2 copies of these reports to Mr. Little. Some of that information is continually privileged, and we're going to have to make sure we redact it before it goes out to anyone else, because there's some personal information in there, red line information of sorts. I ask that you arm yourself with this information and then just make a decision. We can also bring in the investigator to talk to you if you're willing to do that at your choosing. That we can do that now, later, committee meeting, otherwise, as long as you all are willing to go in executive session and ask your questions.
Mr. President, I'd like to draw the attorney to an article printed by AL today, dated October 13th, 2023, where Chief Prine noted that he had called the FBI and the Department of Justice to investigate violent encounters with the police captured on cell phones, and that he called this investigation. It was reported widely by USA Today and the other news carriers in the city of Mobile. So if we call for it, or he called for it, again, I mean, this is a clear picture. This is a clear picture how either this administration has called for something or said they were going to do something, or it wasn't done, or it was done, or the information given, wasn't enough information to move forward with anything. This is why a third party investigation is needed. I asked you for it. You don't know anything about it.
I don't.
So therefore, yeah.
Go ahead.
I believe what you're talking about is after each event, the police department told the FBI and provided about the incident and provided them with all the documentation that they had with respect to the incident. The FBI, again, is not going to be constrained by what is given them. They see the press, they see what the department has given them. They will ask for additional information. Okay. Now, just so you know, a civil rights investigation is basically managed out of Main Justice out of the DOJ. They have their own attorneys that can never close. So they will not be constrained of what information. If they want more information, they will ask for it. They will get it. They can do it. So what investigations are currently pending within DOJ or not pending with the DOJ, only DOJ can answer. Okay. They are aware of all 6 incidents. They have been provided with everything they asked for on all 6 incidents. Okay. They don't come out with a report. They either come out with prosecution or they move on. Okay. They don't let anybody know. So it's up at DOJ. Just because you haven't heard anything does not mean it's been investigated. In the insinuation that we only gave them what they wanted and they took only what we gave them is asinine, because they are going to get what they want to get, period. They have that power, whether it's by subpoena or voluntarily.
My problem here is that the head legal counsel for the city of Mobile had no idea what I was talking about. Again, it leads to the fact of a lack of transparency.
Well, I think
I'm not arguing.
I'm sorry.
I'm not arguing. What I'm simply stating is these are the types of concerns that are driving public trust. That is why there's no trust out there. We say one thing, but people throughout the department, throughout the city, the head legal counsel couldn't even answer the question. This is why the council needs to move forward with this. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not going to argue with you. And I have others. So I'm not even going to go there today. But this is just not something we need to argue about.
But let me say one thing. DOJ is not going to come and do a voluntary investigation. They're either going to do a criminal investigation or they're not.
Anyone else? Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Mr. President. My only, this is my last statement regarding this, is that it was stated that it was turned in today to the Attorney General. And it was also stated, we don't know how long this is gonna take. I think with the council having the opportunity to have investigation power, we can actually put a date and time to receive that information. I agree. I don't think this should go on for no 90 days. I would like to get this investigation done as soon as possible. And with the concerns of sending to the Attorney General, we don't know how long that would take. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Vice President, then Mr. Reynolds.
Not to prolong this any more than is absolutely necessary, because I don't know where we are going with this today with all of the discussion that's here. But I think if the request for the investigation comes from this council with everything on this resolution that is agreed upon in the resolution, whether it is potential criminal or unethical behavior because of these contracts that we have heard about, or even administrative things. If this council requests the investigation of the Attorney General, where all of these things should go in the first place, as we have talked about before, somebody leveling accusations, if there is any criminal or unethical wrongdoing, it needs to go to the proper authority. Not hiring some firm to come in here and go through all sorts of interviews and things yet again, but go to the proper authority where it will be investigated. And if there are any wrongdoings, be it criminal or unethical or even administrative, maybe there is something in there that they need to look at, because we hear grievances, we hear allegations that are, in our minds or my mind, administrative. But send it to the person or the group who will do the investigation and level any charges if there are any to be leveled. And we can ask them to please do it quickly. Doesn't have to take 90 days. It can be done quickly. There is no sense in us hiring out somebody else, again, to do an investigation when, if they find wrongdoing, it goes to the Attorney General anyway. I agree with Councilman Woods. I mean, quit spinning our wheels. Let's do the investigation, restore whatever trust is lost and make sure we know what's going on. Again, put our name on it. We can send it up there with what we want investigated, which includes everything on that resolution that we agreed to, and get it done. That's where I stand today.
Mr. Reynolds.
I just keep going back to this resolution. Like there's some things in here that are, to Mr. Carroll's point, that go beyond criminality and ethics, that, we are a people that governs themselves, and are we doing it in the most efficient, best way possible? There are things we should look at. For example, in this entire blow up, I learned that ShotSpotter is no longer being renewed and it's a failure. Well, I'd like to know what are the details behind ShotSpotter. I think that's something that we should probably look into, why ShotSpotter was a failure, and maybe why we should, or how we should consider these sort of programs going forward, as a people governing themselves. But again, this resolution is so broad and so general that, I hear people say all the time, do the right thing. The right thing according to who? My view of the right thing and your view of the right thing may be two very different things. And so before I can support, some sort of inquiry or investigation or whatever it is, we really need to meet as a committee on what this document actually says. But what I'm hearing is that it is what it is. It says what it says. Either you accept it the way it is, or we ain't voting to, or we're going to vote to keep Paul Prine in office. That's what I'm hearing.
Mr. Days.
I hear Councilman Reynolds, and I would just suggest that let's take the example used, the efficacy of the ShotSpotter program. We don't need to hire a third. We don't need to hire someone to come in here. We don't need to launch an investigation. We can have a public safety committee meeting and ask all the questions we want about the ShotSpotter program. We don't need to have an investigation. We don't need to hire a third party. We don't need that. So these administrative issues, we don't need to hire a third party. We don't need to have an investigation. We have the authority to do that under our current committee structure. And again, if it's criminal or unethical, we don't need to do that because we don't have the ability or the authority to do that. So I don't think we need to launch our own investigation when we have the ability to deal with the things that are the information gathering outside of that kind of an investigation.
Mr. President, real quick. Those discussions and conversations, my understanding walking in this meeting today was going to be part of our discussion in a committee meeting this afternoon. That's been called and scheduled. But now what I'm hearing is we want to say pass this resolution and then understand it at a committee meeting later. That makes zero sense whatsoever. We discussed last week holding this for an additional week. I think that's the what we should take today is hold this for an additional week, have our discussion amongst the committee of the whole, as the president is called, and then we can start narrowing down where we're going to get the most bang for our buck. What should our focus be? You know, if we're going to have a third party or not. If we are, who's it going to be? I mean, that's very important. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's two separate issues in my mind, these two resolutions.
I would like to say that we need to move on. Mr. Reynolds, I do understand what you're saying, but you also have to understand from where I'm coming from too. And I will put a blank out there. You know, I'm an employer. And if one of my employees did me the way that Chief had did his boss man's, he would have been gone. No doubts about it. You know, in my mindset, can the chief come back? No, because again, to me, we putting the safety of the public in jeopardy. Because if you have an employee you can't get along with his boss man, you know, who's going to suffer? The citizens of Mobile. That's just point blank. And again, you know, I cannot see Chief coming back, period. But again, even for the people that are supportive of Chief, you know, we need to give them some assurance, and the people that are against Chief, we need to give them some type of assurance that we are going to look into this. If you want to modify the resolution between now and then and, you know, pass around, you know, well be, you know, let's look at it. We just need to do something to let the people know that this council is going to look into the situation. And that's the only thing that CJ is really asking for. Again, I know Prime can come back because again, and we also, you know, I asked someone to send out an email on last evening of Prime's letter, you know, apartment letter. And it said by the will of the mayor. I mean, the mayor is not in his will no more. I mean, if anything that goes down in this city of Mobile, there's only one person that we can look at, and that's the mayor. You know, not just the chief, not the public safety director, not the chief of staff, but the mayor. And that's his direction that he would like to go. I mean, you know, that's his direction. But again, we also have a responsibility to answer the citizens of Mobile. And many are asking for an investigation. And again, I want to be, you know, due diligent for even the ones that is pro-Prime, you know, to let them know we are going to look into the situation at hand. Because even with the Kenyon report, you know, they were saying that Internal Affairs, you know, he didn't agree with everything Internal Affairs, you know, had said that was clear, you know, but Internal Affairs said everything, you know. I'd rather have someone to really just look outside, you know, and report to us, let us lead the charge and say for the citizens can start having some type of trust back into his government. Yes, Vice President.
Now, are you saying keep those issues separate?
Oh, yeah.
Termination is separate from the report. One doesn't have anything to do with the other, correct?
No, what I'm just saying is I want to give the citizens some assurance that we're going to look into it. If he need to go amend it, to make sure that
I understood that,
yeah.
But what about the termination?
Again, was my employee, he been gone.
Okay, all right.
But again, I want to give the citizens some assurance that we are going to look into the
Right, okay,
situation.
all right.
That's
Just
what I'm
wanted to
saying.
understand where you were going.
Mr. President, I think it is adequate assurance to the public at large that this city council this afternoon will meet as the committee of the whole to discuss the scope of an investigation. That is, already scheduled to meet. So, I've just heard lobbying to, well, we're voting on this one today. That wasn't the intent last week. And now we get here this morning and all of a sudden that's changed. So there is assurance that we're going to meet as a committee of the whole to get the scope right. I'm not objecting to some inquiry or investigation at this point. I just want to get it right. And it's very important that we get it right. And, being knee jerk and just putting broad general statements out there of what we're going to investigate could mean that the investigator can investigate whatever the heck they want to, and if they have a certain lean one way or the other, it depends on what the result's going to be. And so that's very important to me. And so anyways, that's where I'm at.
Mr. President,
Mr. Penn.
I value everybody here. I value their concerns and statements, but I just wanted to let people know that it's been multiple times and Councilman Reynolds, you probably, I don't know if you recall, but it's times that you change your mind the day going into. Like I'm talking about, like we may have had a decision pre-council and you change your mind going into the council meeting. So a week can make a major difference. And so maybe that was the statement, but I believe that we still can have a meeting on the committee of the whole discussing what ways of people who we're going to look into doing this investigation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll.
Passing this today, if we pass both today, then this afternoon in the committee of the whole, we can still address the scope and address which attorney we'd like to go with. We can still clip from the scope or amend the scope because the council has that authority based on the knowledge that we now have, especially dealing with spots with a shot spotter. I don't have that information, don't know, but I did find it odd that some strange person came in talking numbers to the dime and penny of what shot spotter cost us. If y'all remember that, don't want to know where they got that information from, but we can clip that information. The other thing we got to consider here right now is that both these resolutions probably stand a chance of failing today at 10:30. So do we want to lay them over for a week and take the committee as a whole and bring them back next week? Or do we want to go and have this fight downstairs and everything comes up as a shamble and we still leave this city torn up? That's a decision we all got to make right now. So get it in your heads what we're going to do. Either we can amend this now, we can amend it later, or we can hold them both over a week and get everybody on the same page, because I am not going to vote to fire the chief today, one way or the other, if we can't pass this resolution ahead of that. My constituents, I wish you could see the emails and the text messages I've gotten over the last 2 weeks, but I am not going to ignore their voices because they are actually the people we work for. We don't work for the administration. We work for the general public. We work for my neighbors.
Councilor, we need to move on. One thing that we could, I know Mr. Carroll put some options out there, but another thing that we could do is go ahead with our 10:30 meeting and then we go to recess and then have our committee meeting, then come back. But as far as I'm staying right now, I want to give the public some type of assurance that this council is going to do something. So that's something else that we can do, is just go ahead and start the meeting, go into recess, have the committee meeting, and then we just come back and finish the meeting, vote up and down, and et cetera. I mean, that's just an option, but we need to move on. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk.
Oh. 03373 resolution pursuant to section 11-44C-38A of the Alabama Code. 08374 approved purchase order to Donahue Chevrolet for Tahoe SUVs for mobile fire rescue. 08375 approved purchase order to Metalcraft Marine US for rescue boat for fire rescue department. 08376 approved purchase order to North American Fire Equipment for 3 lifting bag kits for Mobile Fire Rescue. 21,377, authorized contract with Jaguar Consulting for design of emergency generator for Mobile Museum of Art. Consent resolutions being introduced. 37,378, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license to Tilly's 2 on Cottage Hill Road. 4379, 380, 381, 382, 383 are declaring the structures public nuisances and ordering them secured and demolished. 58, 384, 385 declaring weeds noxious and authorizing removal of weeds groups 1657 and 1655. 60, 386 approve water special bonus to the Administrative Services Employee of the Month. 60, 387, 388, 389, and 390 are determining appropriations to Old Shell Road School of Creative and Performing Arts, PTO, Heritage Woods Subdivision Phase 2 Homeowners Association, Dearborn Young Men's Christian Association, Inc., and Friends of Municipal Park serves a public purpose and proving payment.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Vice President.
6390 is a $500,000 contract that I don't know where the money's coming from. Is this CIP money?
It is indeed.
Okay, and CIP money is I remember this, I think it came up a year or so ago where a
Botanical
management
Gardens.
agreement was,
Botanical Gardens, yeah.
no, for Municipal Park, they were allocated about $500,000 as well.
There is, yeah, Friends of Municipal.
Okay.
That's
Well,
the
this-
baseball and football fields.
So just briefly reading through this, it says that this is for the management, maintenance, repair, and renovation of Langham Municipal Park. And it goes on to say, serve as a consultant to parks. This is capital improvement money?
It is capital improvement money that the Friends of Municipal will be coordinating with Parks and Recreation to make multiple improvements at the baseball and football fields. This contract is very similar to what we have done for the Mobile Botanical Gardens in the past. And I do want to say something because apparently something went around to various media outlets about a company that they thought had been hired out of Dothan, Alabama. It is a registered agent where official mail goes. It is no company out of Dothan, Alabama. The volunteers are all local. The attorney who set this up is local. This work will be done at the baseball and football fields. And the reason that we're doing this is because the city has not been able to put enough funding into this park to do what has been needed for, I can't even tell you how many years. With this group in place, they are able to raise money, get grants, and be able to match what the city has been pumping into it. My CIP money has been pumping money into this park for ages, just like it has been in Langham Park. So this is a great step forward to do this. I know it's a hefty amount, but that's what is needed to get this work done, or at least get started in getting this work done. It's not enough. It's not enough money. And that's why the group has formed in order to raise money to do what is needed.
I'm just getting at the use of capital improvement money for this sort of management operation. I don't know that was the intent of CIP, was used for sort of management, operational things. I mean, it should be narrowly focused on capital alone. And I'm going to dig a little bit further into the contract, but it's a $500,000 contract. I don't think it ought to be by consent today. Is, I guess my point this morning.
I think maybe if we got Shonda or Kim to talk about the management side, that may be kind of broad in scope with this contract.
Councilwoman Gregory, we've got a lot of other things on the agenda today. And we've got time. We can discuss it further.
Well, we either need to go ahead and get this passed today, or if you're going to withhold unanimous consent on it, we need to know in advance.
Yes, right. I mean, a $500,000 contract, we shouldn't be taking no consent.
All right, well, we can get with Kim and Shonda and get more information on what they mean by management, okay?
Mr.
Yeah,
President.
later on, since we.
Mr. Carroll.
Ms. Gregory, may I commend you on the efforts that you've taken on those parks out there. I remember when Botanical Gardens, you couldn't even walk through the place. and for the money that she's done with this group has totally changed that place around. I went out there for an event and was blown away. That is a city facility where everybody in this city enjoys it, even people from District 2. So to say that she can't take on a project that enhances the whole entire city in her district, I'm just blown away. I mean, I can't tell you, I enjoy it. My wife enjoys it. I'm pretty sure yours does too. And for those of us that have been out there, the mayor and everybody else can really speak for what she's done with the capital dollars out of her CIP and other management teams that she's done to make that place a really good place.
I mean, like
So
I said,
I'm 100% with you, and will continue to be with you from what I've seen you do out there.
Mr.
I
President,
don't mind laying it over
Yeah.
for a week because it is a big contract. That's true. But it is a performance contract, very much like what we did with the Botanical Gardens, because as we know, the city has had difficulty in funding a lot of our amenities the way they needed to be funding. So groups, volunteers are stepping up to become public-private partnerships. And without them, we would really not be able to do it. So that's what is going on at municipal baseball and football. And I commend those volunteers. They have been working years to get this contract approved. They've worked with Shonda and her group as well as City Legal to get these documents to where they can get to this point where we can actually vote on it so they can start doing what they need to do. The management term, Ben, is probably used loosely, but Kim and Shonda can explain to you exactly what that means, because basically it is to put these improvements into place, to get the contractors hired and go forward, but it's all under the supervision of the city of Mobile. They can't do anything on a city piece of property without having oversight by the city of Mobile.
yeah, and thank you, Ms. Gregory. I do also commend you for Botanical Gardens and Municipal Park, putting in capital improvement money. But as is often the case, Mr. Carroll has latched on to something and sort of perverted it, into being something that it's not. There's no attack on this park. There's no attack on Councilwoman Gregory. This is simply being a good steward of the intent and the law surrounding capital improvement. I mean, it's very clear that it's for capital only. And, the slow creep of capital dollars into operations was once nearly the downfall of the finances of this city. And it's very important that we do not go down that road again. So it's very important that we pay very close attention to these sort of contracts to make sure that capital dollars, taxpayers' capital dollars, are in fact spent on nothing but capital. So,
Mr. President, thank you, Councilman Reynolds. I didn't know that I touched you inappropriately to be so perverted, but I don't think I ever used the word attack. So whatever your choice of words, so be it. But just remember, I never used that word. Thank you.
And I just appreciate all the praise being heaped on the councilwoman from District 7 today. So thank you. Yes.
Got to have something positive about it.
Madam Clerk.
CIP resolutions being introduced. 08391, approved purchase order to Game Time for shade structures for Hackmeyer Park, $83,488.95.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Davis.
I'd just like to say that I'm happy to see this item on the agenda and appreciate Kim and the Parks folks for working on this. We spent a lot of money improving Hackmeyer Park, and this was an item that the residents nearby had brought to me that they would really like to see, and so we've been able to add it in there. And I hope when we do this that we will be finished at Hackmeyer Park. Thank you, Mr. President.
You need to be added as a sponsor.
Yeah, we'll add you on as a sponsor.
Oh, yeah, I need to be there on the sponsor.
Okay. Resolutions being introduced. 08392, approved purchase order to Beard Equipment Company for turf sprayer for Parks and Recreation, $61,304.60. 08393, approved purchase order to Insight Public Sector for annual subscription renewal for Apricot Case Management Software for MPD, $17,086.82. 08394, approved purchase order to Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation for more for Azalea City Golf Course, $56,157.07. 08395, approved purchase order to Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation for more for Azalea City Golf Course, $54,362.68. 08396, approved purchase order to Southern Earth Sciences for geotechnical services for 3 Mile Creek Trail, $24,465. 08397, approved purchase order to Cyrus Ford Lincoln for 2 crew cab pickup trucks, $58,798. 21398, authorized contract with Axon Enterprise for body camera equipment for software for MPD, $8,676,566.80.
Mr.
5-year
President.
period.
Mr. Reynolds.
The Kenyon Brown report has a section titled Taser Training, and then it refers to taser use and all that sort of stuff in there. And maybe even some changes. I haven't looked at the recommendations specifically, but because this contract is coming, right on the heels of the Kenyon Brown report, are our new policies, procedures regarding tasers, the training of it, and that sort of thing incorporated in this contract? Do we have the flexibility to incorporate our new changes that could potentially come out of the Kenyon Brown?
Yes, what we're doing is we're transitioning from the Taser 7 to the Taser 10, which is a completely different device. Major Reed's been working for months with them on the contract. He knows all the specific details of the contract. However, the new Taser takes away the ability of the drive stun. It's one of the biggest problems they've had is with the drive stun. So yes, it will incorporate the changes. And if you want details as far as the contract terms, Major Reed's been working for months on it.
Well, I just want to make sure that, as we know, our policies and procedures are going to see some shift in some sort of way.
They will. There'll be new training with the new devices.
Okay, and this provides this contract, which to be honest, I have not read all of it, but it does provide enough flexibility to say, increase the amount of training with officers out there currently.
Right. There will be new training and increased training. Yeah.
Thank you.
Vice President.
And Chief, while you're at the podium, I just want to thank you for the statement that you put out talking about the committees that you were putting into place moving forward to take a look at the report and what, if anything, you all come back with. I mean, I think that is a great step forward, and I appreciate what you're doing. I know this has been a really tough few weeks for everybody and for you, of course, but thank you for stepping up to the plate to take the interim chief position and for moving forward as quickly as you have.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
31399, authorize a grant application to the Alabama Historical Commission in support of their historic sites grant, $18,000, $12,000 match required.
Mr. President,
Mr. Garrett.
just where are we using that money? Just curious. So what
is it?
That's what I mean. It wasn't shown. Maybe Christine or Ann can tell us something really quick, or Shayla.
So the request is to use this money for a rewrite and update of the design review guidelines. They were drafted in 2016. Both the Historical Development Commission as well as the Architectural Review Board have asked for this update. Meredith can speak more to this, but based on national interior standards, which are the kind of the guiding factor for our design review guidelines, there have been new technologies, new materials, new innovative ways to address historic properties. And so the design review guidelines, the goal is to have them updated to reflect that.
And what else?
The windows are killing everybody.
Windows are on the list.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Call for public hearings, 41400, call for public hearing to consider modification of a previously approved plan unit development for property located at 1109, 1111, and 1113 West I-65 Service Road North, scheduled June the 4th. 41401, call for public hearing to consider a modification of a previously approved Plan Unit Development for property located at 4464, 4474 Halls Mill Road, scheduled June 4th. 41402, call for public hearing to assent to the vacation of a portion of right-of-way on Meter Drive, scheduled June 4th. Announcements.
Council,
Back to the, well, I mean, it's not decided. So have we decided we want to, break our meeting and then go to a committee meeting, or y'all want to vote? I mean, I'm prepared either way, although I don't think us breaking to go into a committee meeting, we're going to find a resolution because, I don't know who we're going to hire, all those answers, I think, take a little bit of time to arrive at. And I don't know if we can get there in a, one committee meeting in between, our council meeting as far as the investigation or inquiry goes. I mean, I don't mind breaking and have the discussion. I just don't think we're going to walk out of that discussion with any clearer answer than where we are right now.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's 10:15. You have the opportunity to review the document that's stated. If not, then we just vote. Everybody have their opportunity to vote. That's what we're here for. Thank you, Mr. President.
And again, I don't, to Mr. Reynolds, I don't believe what I'm asking for and what the public asking for is very unreasonable. Again, the only thing I'm asking for CJ, to go forward today is just to put some type of assurance out there to the public that we're going to look at it. And as I stated earlier, I would like to sit down at the table and discuss who we pick as a third party. But the most important thing is if anything was to happen major as far as in voting someone out, even with those supporters, pro and non-pros, cons and pros, or, people that's against and for them, we need to give them some assurance that we're going to look at it. And that's all I'm asking for. Again, I know we got to go through the weeds as far as in picking out the third party and et cetera. But again, we have to give the citizens some assurance. And again, I put it out there again, I would not keep an employee employed if they dog me out the way I got, throw me up on the bus, I wouldn't did it. But the mayor turned to us in order to dismiss this individual. But again, we have citizens out there confused, and the best thing I can do is pretty much give the citizens what they want and deliver what they want as much as I can. And that is within my scope. Okay. All right, we'll see each other at 10:30.